Okey, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bersama-sama saya Yang Berhormat Timbalan Menteri Datuk Hanifah. Hari ini adalah siri pertama yang kita akan adakan setiap suku tahun, dan untuk yang seterusnya kita akan juga pergi ke kawasan-kawasan lain dan di luar daripada Lembah Kelang, kerana ini sebahagian daripada proses yang kita mahu pastikan tidak ada jurang yang besar di antara dasar dan pelaksanaan dengan apa yang sebenarnya berlaku di bawah, terutamanya dengan industri lah kan. Jadi proses itu saya harap kita dapat perbaiki dari semasa ke semasa, dan dia juga membantu Kementerian Ekonomi contohnya menyelaraskan keutamaan kita, because kesukaran menangani perancangan ekonomi ini ialah kita melihat kepada jangka masa sederhana dan jangka masa panjang. Tapi di pihak industri dan ekonomi, mereka juga ada isu-isu yang mereka perlu selesaikan seharian kan? Jadi proses begini saya harap membuka ruang yang baru kepada industri, pihak swasta dan kerajaan untuk terus bekerjasama dalam kita memperkukuhkan kedudukan ekonomi dan kewangan negara kita. Dan pada hari ini saya juga telah maklumkan kepada wakil-wakil industri bahawa pentadbiran ini akan memulakan kembali platform pemuda, iaitu platform bersama di antara pihak kerajaan dan juga pihak swasta untuk menyelesaikan proses dan juga prosedur di peringkat kerajaan bertujuan untuk mempercepatkan dan memudahkan urusan perniagaan dan industri. Platform ini bermula saya ingat lebih kurang 15-16 tahun yang lepas lah, dan pada mulanya ia mempunyai kesan yang baik. Kemudian selepas itu dia agak perlahan, dan dengan cara ini melalui platform pemuda yang akan dipengerusikan bersama oleh saya sebagai Menteri Ekonomi dan juga Ketua Setiausaha Negara yang mewakili pentadbiran kerajaan. Harapan kami ini akan mempercepatkan lagi usaha kita untuk menjadikan Malaysia destinasi dan juga pasaran yang mesra perniagaan. Kerana dari segi keboleh senangan melakukan perniagaan, itu sangat penting kepada pelabur dan juga kepada perniagaan, because it defines also our competitiveness. Timbalan, ada soalan?
Maybe on the pemuda, have you identify industri punya wakil dan sebagainya?
Dia sebenarnya struktur itu semua memang platform itu semua sudah ada. Jadi kita akan bawa kembali dan kita akan selaraskan. Tapi proses itu akan berlaku di peringkat kerajaan lah. So we will work with KSN to see where we were when we was left off, and how do we want to streamline dan sebagainya.
I have a question.
Yeah.
China has reopened from the end of last year. So what's the opportunities China's reopening to the Malaysia and China cooperation and for the region's recovery?
The 2023 global economic outlook is expected to show a slowdown. And that's how Malaysia's close economic linkage with China hopefully can provide us the buffer, because there are some areas in our economy that we still have a lot of potential to realize, especially in terms of tourists from China. So this administration, would like to promote as business-friendly policies as much as possible. And I think Chinese companies have had substantial investment so far. We would like to even expedite that, and is our open door policy. And given how interlinked and intertwined our economies with China is, I'm more than happy to explore the possibilities of seeing bigger Chinese investments in Malaysia.
He said that Prime Minister Anwar will visit China this year. So could you share some details about the preparation?
I don't know yet. I don't know that one, I think.
Will the focus, Malaysia will focus on the cooperation with China? I mean that as a new government and a new Minister of Economy, what will be the focus, new area that
we see, Malaysia is a trading nation. We have a multitude of products ranging from commodities all the way to equipments, all the way to electronics, all the way to services. China being the biggest market in the world, obviously we are part of that value chain that supplies to the Chinese market. So we hope to not just remain where we are in terms of our position in the value chain, but to cooperate more in some areas where technology is key, and there are areas where Chinese has more advanced than us, and this includes, for example, in the areas of green electric vehicles, and then renewable energy, and that also includes making sure that China and Malaysia will continue with our commodity trade, palm oil and so on. So it is about trying to build up the good economic traits that we've had, but there are also certain new areas that is strategic in our focus in this country, where China also has a good place, and in some areas very advanced compared to us. And those are the green economy, those related to digital and technology, those related to electric vehicles and solar. So these are the areas that we from my perspective as economic minister, that we think that there are good areas to increase cooperation with China.
Will this year break the record again? I mean that last year break the last record, $200 billion US already. So will this year the trade between the two countries break a new record? Thank you.
It's actually, it depends very much on the growth in China as well. So we are really hoping, as I said in the beginning, that China can buffer the global slowdown, because if China performs better and China's growth is above expectation, the spillover is definitely to Malaysia as well, and that spillover obviously will be translated into hopefully higher trade. All right.
Bank Negara Industri recently announced that our GDP for last year grew by 8.7%. and which was the highest pace since 2000. So what's your take on this, and moving forward this year, what are some of the key areas that can support the growth as we anticipated that this year would be a moderate pace, but maybe perhaps it could be better than expected?
We'll respond officially as a ministry next Wednesday. Yeah, next Wednesday. No.
Pasal PM semalam ada kata kerajaan akan cuba cari cara bantu rakyat selain pada mengeluarkan KWSP. So pandangan ada alternatif lain ke selain pada
Ada beberapa perkara yang insya-Allah akan diumumkan kan. Dalam masa terdekat kita menunggu pengumuman bajet lah, because kita tak boleh nak umum dahulu sehingga bajet tu diumumkan kan. Tapi ini termasuk contohnya membuka peluang kepada lebih ramai golongan yang B40 ke bawah untuk menjana pendapatan tambahan. Pada masa yang sama, harapan kita ialah melalui kajian separuh penggal rancangan Malaysia ke-12 yang sedang berlaku sekarang, kita mula melihat kepada dasar-dasar dan program-program yang boleh meletakkan sasaran pertumbuhan gaji. Kerana dia tidak boleh semata-mata melihat kepada aspek kos sara hidup semata-mata, tetapi kerajaan mesti ada kerangka dasar yang jelas untuk tempoh 2 tahun, 5 tahun akan datang untuk memastikan kenaikan gaji itu tidak diserahkan semata-mata kepada pasaran. Jadi di peringkat kementerian kami, semua ini adalah perkara-perkara yang berbentuk jangka pendek, jangka sederhana dan jangka panjang kan. Tetapi secara prinsipnya kan, kalau kita berjaya memastikan program subsidi itu disasarkan kepada kumpulan yang benar-benar memerlukan, kita alihkan daripada kumpulan yang tidak memerlukan kepada kumpulan yang benar-benar memerlukan, itu juga akan memastikan kesan kenaikan kos sara hidup itu dapat tangani dengan lebih baik oleh keluarga-keluarga seperti ini. So dia adalah sekumpulan dasar yang perlu berlaku sekaligus kan. Yang kita perlu berhati-hati ialah pengeluaran KWSP, walaupun saya faham untuk setengah keluarga atau golongan itu dikira dapat membantu buat masa sekarang, tetapi kos yang terpaksa dibayar oleh mereka di kemudian hari itu adalah tinggi. So that's I think kita boleh ambil jalan mudah yang benar kan, tetapi dalam keadaan yang masyarakat kita semakin menua dan kos untuk melalui hari tua itu akan bertambah tinggi di masa akan datang. Jadi memang menjadi tanggungjawab kita memastikan seberapa yang boleh, seberapa ramai rakyat kita ada sedikitlah simpanan. Jadi apa yang kita mampu bantu dari segi bantuan dasar yang lain sekarang ini yang melibatkan kos dan pendapatan, kita perlu tumpu yang itu dahulu kerana menyentuh ataupun mengambil wang persaraan di hari tua itu, sementara dia nampak mudah untuk ahli politik sekarang, tetapi dia mencuci tangan untuk masa akan datang. Kerana yang akan menanggungnya ialah mereka yang kehilangan simpanan tua itu. Yang GDP itu memang, I will respond hari Rabu. Okey, sabar.
Subsidi bersasar tu, maksudnya adakah pelaksanaan mekanisme subsidi bersasar akan diumumkan masa belanjawan 2023 nanti?
Yang itu kena tanya PM. Sebab yang akan mengumumkan itu bidang kuasa PM kan.
Tapi when the commodity prices are low, seperti macam you cakap lah, when you have savings from dengan measures tu, you can help the targeted groups. Do you think this is the right time to buat targeted subsidies?
Well, I think the key word is retargeting the subsidy. I think kita kena berhati-hati bila kita cakap retargeting subsidi ni, bukannya kita hapuskan subsidi. Akan ada golongan yang sebenarnya lebih memerlukan mendapat lebih subsidi daripada yang mereka ada sekarang. Jadi golongan inilah yang akan lebih mendapat manfaat. Tapi golongan yang tak sepatut dapat subsidi macam saya dengan Datuk Hanifah, tak payah dapat subsidi. Sekarang ni kita orang pun dapat subsidi. Dan subsidi kalau dalam beberapa perkara, contohnya subsidi petrol dan subsidi tenaga elektrik kan, yang banyak dapatnya kita orang, bukannya yang kumpulan itu. So that's why it's not dari perspektif mengurangkan harga, mengurangkan kos kerajaan semata-mata. Dia memastikan mengalihkan itu supaya yang sepatutnya dapat itu dapat lebih. And I think that will provide the right perspective for it.
Is it a good time to buat?
Memang kena buat. Satu, kerana dia keperluan mengukuhkan kedudukan fiskal kerajaan. Tetapi pada masa yang sama, kalau kita berterusan macam ini, jumlah subsidi yang didapat, yang orang biasa dapat ini, yang sepatutnya dapat lebih, dia dapat sikit. Sebab itu, setiap kali kenaikan harga barang ke apa tu, dia lebih tertekan. Sedangkan orang yang, T20 semua ni, dia kenaikan harga barang tu, kami tak terkesan sangat. Kerana pendapatan kami lebih kan. Dan that's why it's two-pronged. It's just not about consolidation of the government fiscal position. It is actually ensuring equity dengan memastikan sumber ini benar-benar sampai dengan lebih banyak kepada kumpulan yang sewajarnya menerima, dan mereka lah yang wajar lebih dibantu dalam menangani kenaikan kos sara hidup sekarang.
Hari ini apakah semua dilakukan, charge RM RM1 ATM perlu dihapuskan lah menurut pakar ekonomi. Dan daripada Kementerian sendiri mungkin ada pertimbangan untuk lakukan perbincangan dengan bank-bank tu, sebab rasanya RM1 tu tak memberi masalah yang besar kepada pihak bank untuk kecualikan, seperti yang dilakukan pada waktu PKP sebelum ni.
Yang itu saya perlu rujuk kepada bank negara kan, kerana perkara-perkara ini adalah di bawah kawalan bank negara, dan mereka ada akta sendiri. But definitely bila telah timbul isu itu, sudah tentu pandangan bank negara itu akan sampai kepada kami lah. So I think it's better to leave it at that point and wait for the for us to get response daripada bank negara, dan daripada situ baru kita boleh dapat pandangan yang holistik lah mengenai semuanya.
Berbalik pada golongan sasaran tu tadi, adakah M40 juga akan termasuk dalam golongan sasaran? Sebab M40 pun terkesan juga sekarang, bukan B40 saja.
Sebab itu sasaran orang kata subsidi bersasar ini, sudah tentu proses buat keputusan itu sedang berjalan, kerana ia satu keputusan, mungkin keputusan ekonomi yang paling besar dalam satu generasi yang negara kita buat. It's a huge task kan. Secara prinsipnya kita nak pastikan bahawa penentuan kelayakan itu lebih menyeluruh, bukan berdasarkan B40, M40 semata-mata. Dan untuk kita berkemampuan buat begitu, kita mesti berkeupayaan menentukan pendapatan isi rumah, yang kemudian dilihat juga dengan berapa bilangan isi rumah kan. Dan perkara ini memerlukan infrastruktur data yang ada. So I think all this process is ongoing now to decide what is the most equitable way. Kita tahu bahawa secara idealnya itu yang kita nak, iaitu kita mula memberi subsidi berdasarkan tahap pendapatan boleh belanja mengikut isi rumah. Pendapatan berapa, tolak perbelanjaan berapa, kemudian dilihat di kawasan dia duduk kat mana, berapa yang kita rasa sepatutnya dia dapat pada tahap yang munasabah. dan penentuan itu ditetapkan begitu. Tetapi pelaksanaannya itu adalah sangat besar. Sebab itu dia tidak disentuh oleh pentadbiran-pentadbiran sebelum ini. Kan? So I think the government will go through this process, dan kita kena imbangkan mengenai pelaksanaan, dan kaedah-kaedah pelaksanaan itu ialah sesuatu yang akan diputuskan oleh kerajaan secara berperingkat, sedang kita tahu bahawa prinsipnya kita nak bergerak ke arah itu. It has to be last because okay, alright.
Sure. Can you tell us what's the biggest takeaway from that dialogue session just now?
Well,
In terms of 4IR, in terms of 4IR, what were the takeaways, or what do you hope to see coming out from that session?
Yeah.
This morning?
well, there are many teething problems yang there are many teething problems that I suppose industry players feel they are grappling every day. That's why I feel that if we were to get them to move up to the next level when it comes to technology adoption, 4IR and so on, we have to manage both resolving their teething problems. Then I think you can free up the space for them to focus on upscaling in terms of technology and automation. Otherwise, my fear is it remains disconnected between what the government wants to do and wants to drive the economy and industry. But those policies, even incentives, may not be reciprocated or may be met with skepticism. Hence why today we want to approach it from the perspective of bridging the gap. We talk about facilitating doing business and removing red tapes, because that is part and parcels of the process of managing their pain points, and removing their business pain points will allow them more capacity to focus as well on upgrading. Because you can't upgrade if you are dealing with teething problems. And so that's my biggest takeaway actually, and not just from today. That's the reason why we do this. We want to create the environment, we want to get the buy-in, we want to work together, but you can't do that unless we also attend to some of their pressing needs on day-to-day basis.
Can you elaborate a bit more about what are the struggles they face? Could it be infrastructure? You mentioned one, which is the red tape. Could you elaborate more? Is it infrastructure or?
It's not. So far from our engagements and our assessments, the struggle is not really infrastructure, not even access to fund. It's basically ease of doing business, and it's actually layers and layers of sometimes, I will say this very carefully, but sometimes over-regulation sebenarnya, because all this becomes a cost of doing business for them. If you recall the first comments from Dato' Ami, from Retail Association, is that each certification for import, especially for import, for retail products, each certification actually can push the price sometimes double than what the price would have been if the certification is streamlined. So that's actually the plus point, because we are not really talking about big infrastructure, big funds. It's about managing some of what are essentially within our control. But the process is tedious, because you really have to go through one by one and then coordinate with the relevant agencies, get the approval, reflect it in the policy and the act and the regulations. So that process is tedious. That's why, although it's a small announcement, the reactivation of Pemuda, but it really drives through our commitments to sort this one out. Because the industry understands that when this administration commits to reactivating the Pemuda, It means that we are willing to dedicate the time and effort to really go through all this day-to-day issue. And I think once we do that, it will be able to free up our industry's resources and focus to start looking at the upgrading. So the good thing for us is actually it's not even a question of big investments, infrastructure, or access to funds or financing. It will take a lot of time, but at least it will not burn our pockets. So it's something that we are willing to do. Okay.
On budget. On the budget.
Quite difficult for me to answer about the budget because we have to wait for the budget.
Subsidies. Are you all looking at leakages? There's been a history of wastage in this country.
Well, I can answer that, but not purely from budget perspective lah. What we set out to do, one of the pillars of what we wanted to do is to strengthen our fiscal position. Strengthening the fiscal position also relates primarily to avoiding cost overruns. And our ministry is responsible for managing and putting in the discipline and even approving actually development budgets. And that's one of the key strategies that we want to focus in the coming months, because if, in our opinion, even if we can get the project to be delivered on time, we reduce the project delays of government infrastructure projects, there is already room 10 to 15% savings. And we're not even talking about corruption. We're just talking about project delivery. Because we all know when project gets delayed, what is costed this year, obviously taking into account the project timeline of 5 years, right? Of course, you costed this year. But if the project takes 10 years, by the time it's completed, obviously, inflation has gone up, steel has gone up, manpower, wages have gone up. So even about not talking about leakages, that is already something that we can do, I think we can do quite well. So it's definitely one of the key thrusts that we look, not just in this budget or future budget, it's actually a key strategy in strengthening our fiscal position. Thank you very much. We really have to go. Alright. Ini tak ada soalan politik kau.
Subsidi ni time frame tu ni. Time frame tu.
Dia masalah because semua ini adalah di bawah Menteri Kewangan.
Tahu.
I can't. So you have to wait for the budget to be announced, everything kan, So.
Tapi the mechanism comes from your ministry kan? Ke ada
again, I mean, it's like there are processes and so on. So it's very inter-ministry.
Tapi with 2/3 majority, with, election lagi 4 tahun.
Huh?
Sorry, just a quick one. My editor just asked me this. Yeah. Experts say that Menu Rama is only a band-aid and Putrajaya must still address Malaysia low pay. So what are your comment on this?
I actually answered it. I actually answered it during that. That's why I was saying that, of course, you have to address both the cost and the cost that is a short term and long term. The long term ones, we want to put in more capacities in the supply chain, and but we also are looking at wages. That's why one of the questions was asking what exactly is our target. I mean, the pathway is quite straightforward. If we cross $15,200 some years down the line, officially we are a high-income nation. We are at around 13,000 plus. And so, if the country grows at about 4 to 5% in the next 3 to 4 years, actually the high income status nation is actually within the horizon. But what we want to make sure as well is that you just don't hit the high income nation status by per capita, but the gap, the inequality is big. So that's why, as part of the 12 Malaysian Plan midterm review, one of the key areas that we will focus is precisely how to calibrate the wage growth in this country to make sure that we hit the high income nation status, but we also make sure that individually there is a reasonable increase, equality. Other things are ongoing, all this focus about upgrading the economy, moving to digital economy. These are all meant to create high income jobs. Upskilling, reskilling, getting people to move more into this type of jobs. These are all in progress. But as part of 12th Malaysian Plan, we are also exploring whether there are other policy tools that we can do to expedite this. Okay?
How is the ECRL ongoing? Just now you see the big project, it should be finished on time.
That one I don't know, because it's under, I have to say, I don't follow through ECRL as closely because it's under Ministry of Transport. So I actually I don't follow it as closely for me to be able to say whether it's on time.
Thank you.
Thank you.